Okay, we're going to do it a little different so I don't have to talk for half an hour. We're going to do questions and answers. And I already have 2 questions, so the rest of you either yell them out or whatever the case may be. The first question is from Ron at 1350. He said, Sue, we have to have flood insurance? I said 1350 is in a mandated flood zone. You are required to have flood insurance. He then says, well, what, can I just give the summary to the insured to give to her mortgage company? And the answer is no. You can, but it won't suffice. The actual mortgage company is looking for a certificate of insurance, and it's something we do on all policies. For all mortgages, whether they have first, second, thirds, whether they're refinancing, each and every time, the mortgage company is calling, asking for a new certificate of insurance with the new loan number, whatever the case may be. And every year at renewal, we send out all these renewal certificates to all the mortgage companies. So for you who are resident managers or property managers and you're getting mortgage companies or your client, your unit owners sending you this piece of paper, just send them to us and we will take care of it. You don't even have to write us a nice little email, just fax, shoot them over. We do it all day long. We have one girl, that's her whole job. She sits at a computer all day. I'd hate to have her job processing certificates for the mortgage companies. So if you ever get anybody coming to your office saying, my bank said, say, oh, give me the paper, I'll send it to Sue. And we'll take care of it for you all day long, not a problem. So if you're in a mandated flood zone, yes, you need to have flood insurance.
I'm just going to adjust this. No, it's hard. How's that?
How's that? It still seems tall, short. Okay, the next question is, why does the association's policy have to get involved when Unit 901's ice maker line breaks and leaks down to 801? Why do you as the resident manager have to get involved? Why does we have to have the insurance company involved? Why isn't it an issue between 2 owners? I know you all like it to be that way, but it ain't so. And the reason is the bylaws of every condo state in Hawaii state that we have covered building as originally built at today's replacement cost. Now there are some condos in town that you bought just the concrete base. You had pipes where your toilets had to be or your sinks had to be, but you got to design it the way you wanted. Well, on that condo, we don't have to get involved. There are other condos that came with no flooring. So whether it's carpet or wood, we don't have to take care of that. But the walls and the ceilings in most condominiums did come with walls and ceilings, cabinets, tubs, toilet sinks, walls, floors, ceiling. Okay, so the master policy gets involved for everything above the deductible. So when that ice maker leaks and it goes down 1 floor and you get the call from somebody as the manager that says, there's water in my unit, and then you find out it's the unit above, you get him to repair his appliance. Now the cost to repair the appliance is the responsibility of the unit owner. That is in your bylaws. All of your owners are supposed to maintain and repair their appliances and fixtures inside. But the damage done by the water is covered under the master policy, subject to the association's deductible. The standard deductible today is $5,000. So when MD gets the call to come and extract the water because it was a water heater with lots of water and it's gone down 5 units, it doesn't behoove the unit owner just below to have called MD. The manager, you guys, need to call MD or whoever to take care of all the units. Easier to get one person out to handle the whole thing. MD, as they told you, has an adjuster, a licensed adjuster. They stole them from First Insurance, and First Insurance was not happy. They're out now looking for more adjusters. Don't what me? Did you know he's a star? I just learned today you're on commercials. See, I never watch TV. Did you know he's on commercials? You and your brother. Didn't know that. I was sitting at a table and they said that, and you were right, he is. American Savings and McDonald's?
My brother's on American.
Oh, American Savings is the brother. Okay, Dean. What are you on?
Farmers
Farmers
Insurance.
Insurance. Okay. Nah, I represent Farmers Insurance.
It's a job. It's a job.
It's a job, that's right, because he doesn't get enough extraction jobs from you guys, so he's here wanting more. Anyway, that's my plug. But anyway, let's go back. The master policy takes care of the building as built. So they send their Troy out. Troy does the exact estimate for each unit, and it's going to be an $8,000 claim plus $5,000 for extraction. So we have a $13,000 claim. We subtract out our $5,000 deductible. The property manager's going to get a check for the balance. And along with that, there's going to be a breakdown per unit who gets what. Now, if you're in 514B and you've opted into the insurance section, you can actually charge the deductible to the unit owner who caused the claim. So if it's my ice maker that leaked, I will get a bill that says, you know, we've caused the claim, it's been settled, we've received the proceeds from the insurance company. However, Sue, we're short $5,000. Please cut us a check. I will take that letter to my own HO6 carrier, my own homeowner's carrier, who will then, if it's a quality company, all but one company, and I'll tell you who later, then that company will cut a check to the association minus my personal deductible and my policy. Most homeowners have either a $250, $500, or $1,000 deductible. So the most I should be out on that claim is $1,000 if I had a high deductible. Most homeowners take $500 because it's in between the middle. And there are some people who will take a $250 just because they're afraid something may go wrong and they don't have the dollars between the $250 and the $500. So even though the property manager has to send out that letter, I should not be screaming and yelling and saying it's not my fault, I didn't know it was going to break, etc. I just know that I can send it to my insurance company, who will then take care of this problem. So do we all understand now why we have to get the association involved on every claim if it's above the deductible? Okay, now as I said, not all homeowners' policies are the same. There are a couple of companies, mainly one right now, who does not cover the association's deductible unless you're legally liable. So an ice maker that the hose behind where the ice maker is, I don't pull my refrigerator out and check it. It was fine for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and all of a sudden it breaks and leaks. That company would say that Sue is not legally liable for the damage done. And they're right, I'm not legally liable. I didn't know it was going to break. I didn't do this on purpose. It's an accident. But 514B says I don't have to be legally liable. I just have to be responsible. I just have to have caused the claim, or it had to have come from my unit. So even the pipe behind the wall that I don't see, that I don't even know is there, that I don't even know what it looks like, that pipe behind the wall, if it services just my unit, is my responsibility. And if that pipe behind the wall causes a claim, or the ice maker's hose leaks and causes a claim, I am responsible for the deductible. Not legally liable, probably lose in a court if you took me to court, but the bylaws say I have to pay the deductible. Okay? Now, there is a company that's you're in very good hands, they say all the time. Unfortunately, their policy does not pick up the deductible unless you're liable. Okay? They're trying to change it. They expect to have it done by October, November, December. In the meantime, people are having claims, and people are having to pay the association's deductible. So it's important that you make sure everyone in your project carries insurance, because I'd rather spend $200 on an annual premium for a high-rise condo's HO6 policy than have to cut a check for $5,000. So that is why the master policy always gets involved when there is a water overflow claim. Okay, Ron, you got another question for me?
Yeah.
What?
I got two.
One at a time.
Yeah, I know. Okay, sorry. Your voice getting better, by the way.
Thanks.
I don't need my microphone. Okay, so our question is, we just had an incident where the owner of ice maker leaked on the, remember that Korean lady?
Yes.
There was a Korean lady, and then the owner of that affected unit did not want to use file a claim. They didn't want to use their insurance because they were worried about the rates going up.
Right.
So they went after the rental agent, and they sued the rental agent of neglect or whatever, and the rental agent was responsible to pay the claim.
Right.
How come?
Okay. When you have a unit owner who says, I'm not going to use my insurance, it's not my fault, I don't want my rates to go up. First thing is that when it's not your fault, it's like auto insurance. Your rate won't go up. Okay? But if you're parked at Alma One and someone hits your car, the insurance company is stuck having to cover it because they're not going to increase your rate. Okay? Most companies are the same thing with the homeowners unless you're to blame. If you're to blame, yes, you can experience a rate increase, or what you will really experience is after a few claims, the company says, go elsewhere, we don't want you. Okay? In this instance, the unit owner below refused to use her insurance. The unit owner below said, I'm not going to go after the owner, but I'm going to go after the rental agent. They took the rental agent to small claims court. And in small claims courts, it's the wild, wild west. You never know what they're going to say. And in this instance, they said, okay, rental agent, you should have taken better care of that unit. You have to pay this lady. Now the rental agent, which Ron didn't tell you, is coming back against the unit owner and saying, you're supposed to indemnify us, so you have to pay us back. And but she had no insurance. So they're at this, at this end. If that unit owner above had an HO6 policy, it would have taken care of this for everybody, and we wouldn't have had to go to small claims court. We wouldn't have the rental agent having to use their time and their insurance, and it would have all been settled. But because they didn't have the insurance, okay, we now have a pickle going on in Ron's building. Okay, and there's really not much you can do about it except let them fight it out, Ron, because it really has nothing to do with the master policy.
Yeah, second one.
Okay, well, I'll give you one more in Putnam now.
Yeah, we repiping our building, we're on the 3rd floor.
Thank God.
Okay, so we're doing the laundry. And then when we do the laundry from the top to the bottom, we're replacing all the cast iron. So it's a monster of a job. And then because our building is so old and the cast iron is all all inside is all coming down, right, when they cut the pipe and they shake and everything. So now it's all loading at the bottom. So now when we get to the bottom of the laundry, the suds are coming back up too high and it's going back into the unit and flooding. Why is it, and according to our consultant, ABB, they're saying that the insurance, the owner has to call their own insurance. Now these owners are pissed off that we're doing this $12 million project. Water's coming back up the line, ruining their wooden floors, and they gotta go to their own insurance. Right. When did you guys come in? After the $5,000 deductible and only to the as-built. So yes, I talked to 1103, whatever his name was today, and explained it to him, and he said, okay, I will call my insurance company, I will understand now, I'll take care of it. What's happening is, even though the association is repairing the pipes, they can't repair how tall are you, 20? 33 floors in one day. So there's old pipes, meaning with nice new pipes, and the water's just flowing down those nice new pipes, and of course they're coming back up under the old pipes that are old and rickety and full of holes and falling apart, and it's going into people's apartment. Well, you know, that's eventually, when this is all done, and we have a zillion of claims from all of this, half done, half not done, you won't have your claims anymore. And the insurance companies all understand that with 1350. That's the only reason they've hung in with you, because they know you're doing it. All the HO6 carriers will say, okay, I talked to Island the other day, who has one of the units in there. I said, don't worry, they're changing the pipes, this is the problem, it's gonna get handled, it will stop shortly. They said, okay, we'll hang in with our client. So it's just a matter of educating the insurance companies and their adjusters and the unit owner. But it is under the deductible responsibility of the unit owner. Okay, next question. What was the worst water damage claim you ever handled? We have a water damage claim that was over $400,000. Sounds like it should be a fire, does it not? It was a water damage claim. Did a lot of damage to several units. It is amazing, and that's why. And it's from things that should not happen. In other words, you're supposed to maintain your appliances. The association's supposed to maintain their pipes. But pipes get old, and unfortunately many of our buildings were built in the 70s, some in the 80s, and our pipes are 30 and 40 years old, and it's costing millions. You said 4.2? 12 million for 1350 to repair their pipes. I had an 11-story building that you spent 4.2 million repairing their pipes, replacing. I mean, you're talking about digging into the walls, replacing it. But if you guys did that, we wouldn't have these claims. So insurance companies don't look nicely upon water claims because they really feel it is a lack of maintenance and repair on the part of the association. And they expect the board to do something about it. Fireman's Fund has been hanging in with 1350 because they've been saying, we're going to get it done, we're going to get it done. And I said, we're actually started. This year I said, we actually started. And the renewal, I think I just sent you your renewal, Ron, and it was like hardly any of an increase. They're going to get it done, so they've got their fingers crossed that they'll get it done shortly and they won't have these claims. But I mean, when your premium is $50,000 and we pay out $400,000 on a water claim, you have to kind of question what's going on and why. And they expect you folks and your board to handle these things and get it repaired. Next question from the audience. Oh.
You want me to read it for you? You got it?
Okay, you read it.
Yeah.
Saber voice, I'll just read. Next question is a follow-up to the apartment 901B question. If 801 made significant improvements, does 901's HO6 cover the extensive repair costs? If 801's HO6 covers it, will 801's insurance company go after 901? And what if 901 does not have an HO6?
Okay, so 901 leaked down to 801. 801 has extensive repairs, remodels. And of course, they've upgraded their homeowner's policy to say they have $100,000 worth of improvements to their unit. I had one guy who had $500,000 repairs to his condo. I said, I gotta come see it. Boy, you should have seen it. But anyway, $100,000, let's say, is for 801. 801 has a homeowner's policy, and there's damage. And the damage to the building as built is below the deductible, let's say. So it's now on the back of the HO6 for unit number 801. Okay, and they will pay it. Well, subject to her deductible. Can 801 go against 901? They can if there's not a waiver of subrogation in the bylaws. They can if 901 is legally liable for the damage done. Legally liable, for example, I had a condo where the insured was putting a bucket under her sink, and because she couldn't get time to have the plumber come out and repair it, and then she would empty the bucket every night when she got home from work. Problem is she went away for a weekend and forgot about her bucket. The resident manager can't get into her unit, so he doesn't break down her work, calls the locksmith, gets into her unit because the unit below is having water damage, opens the sink underneath and sees the bucket. He was a smart resident manager. He took a picture. Now that person is legally liable for the damage done to the unit below. They knew they had a leak. They did not repair it. They caused the damage. That is different from not knowing that the pipe behind the wall is just going to break. So it will depend if the insurance company can go against the other insurance company, and the insurance companies will fight it out with the HO6s. Now, if 901 does not have insurance, 901 is going to have to pay the deductible of the HO6 for the unit below, because 514B says that the association can charge the association's deductible and the deductible of any owner's HO6 policy who were sustained damage. So they can go back against 901 to cover the deductible of 801. But unless they're legally liable, the insurance company is just going to pay that claim. So now what happens at 801? It's renewal time, and they had a $100,000 loss. Completely innocent, not their fault. Joe Schmuck lives above them, and his thing leaked, and he didn't do anything about it, and da-da-da. Okay, at that point, if it's the first claim, it's probably not going to cause an increase at all. It happens again. Oh, I have one guy who's had 3 leaks. It happens again. They're going to ask, the insurance company is not going to be happy. Again, the 801 is innocent. Let's say it's another piece of a washing machine hose this time it breaks. At that point, they're going to be calling me as the association insurance agent saying, would you go talk to the board about having a plumbing inspection done and have these people be forced to check their appliances, have a plumber come in and check to see, because it's not just usually one unit. In other words, when ice maker lines go, it's 2 or 3. It's 2 or 3 washing machine hoses that are going. The appliances are getting old. I was on a conference call this morning, and they were having trouble with their washing machine hoses. They had 2 claims in 6 months. I said, board, it is now time to hire a plumber and go in and inspect everybody's washing machine hose and make them replace it. Or go out and buy the flood check ones and go in and do it yourself. But if you keep these claims up, one claim was $45,000, the other one's going to be closer to $75,000. I said, your premium's going up, your deductible's going up. Now, if the board does nothing about it, they will have a deductible. Cute board, they said, okay, Sue, let's say we have a $100,000 deductible. How much money will we save in our premium? And I said, you don't save much for a huge deductible, because most of your premium, 60% of your premium roughly, is for the hurricane. So you're only going to save some money on that other 40%. I said, but now you've put $100,000 on the back of each owner. So each owner has to go out and make sure they have $100,000 worth of basic coverage on their dwelling, because the master policy starts with that deductible. I said, it makes more sense, guys, to spend $25, get a plumber in to do an inspection, and if you promise him lots of units to inspect, he'll make his price cheap, and then he'll leave a little check sheet that says everything that's wrong with that apartment and needs repairs. So that's basically the way to handle this situation. What's this question say?
Okay, yeah, just leave it there.
One thing about the flood checks, I don't know if you guys have actually looked into this, but we had a loss. It was a relative of mine, and the flood check was installed in the high-rise, but the flood check warranty is up to 85 psi, and a lot of your buildings, your pressure's higher. So before you tell guys to go and install that, double check the warranty on the flood check, the flood safe flex hoses for those washing machine supplies, because I believe there is a pressure maximum on that, and I think it's 85 psi. Okay. The next question is, we have commercial tenants with high-risk activities like a grill restaurant. Do you recommend any specific requirements the AOAO can require from the commercial tenants? They are just another apartment for the declaration.
Even though they are just another client for the declaration, if you're in 514B and you require insurance of your unit owners, you can require insurance of these commercial tenants. And just like you set limits for the 514B for the HO6 owners, you can set a basic limit for the commercial tenants as well. They're just another apartment. So your 514B gives you that right to make sure that they have insurance as well. If it is a restaurant that's grilling, of course, the owner should be having the hood and all of that type of situation. If they're serving alcohol, you want to make sure that they have liquor liability. And if they have a valet service, of course, you want to make sure that your association is covered under all of that. And whoever the insurance agent is for the restaurant should be able to give a certificate of insurance to the association showing proof of all that coverage. They are a unit owner. They have rules to follow. Just because they're commercial doesn't make them any that much different from a residential unit owner.
How long does the damaged party have to rebuild or repair damage? I guess the affected unit?
Yeah. Okay, the affected unit, once the claim is reported, and normally what happens is the insurance company, if it's a large claim, they will hold back the depreciation because we have replacement cost policies. But if the person you give the money to decides to go to Vegas and try to double it and loses it and doesn't fix their apartment, they did not repair or replace, so they don't get the replacement value, they got the depreciated value. Some insurance companies it's 90 days, others it's 120. I have some that say it's a year. So there's really, it has to be within a reasonable time frame. I had a guy overseas in one of the wars, and so he was out of his unit for over a year, and he said, look, I'm going to be out for a year. When I come back, I'll deal with it. And so we wrote to the insurance company and said, this is not going to get settled. He has the money for the depreciated amount. He's not going to get it repaired until he comes back. He was leaving the holes and stuff until he got back so he could be there to monitor it. And so we were going to owe him that money a year from now. And he came back, he took care of it, and then we cut him the check for the balance once he showed proof that he had repaired. So it's kind of an iffy thing based upon whatever company you are with. But usually years about the longest you should do to get repairs done, unless it's a hurricane. And then we'll all be repairing 2 and 3 years down the line because that's how long it will take to get everything handled.
How many leaks or claims can a building have before they are uninsurable? Our building has exceeded our premium 2 years in a row.
I hope you have a low premium. Okay. It's hard to say. Ron's building has been exceeding its premium. I'm sorry, Ron, you're just so easy to pick on. But Ron's building has been exceeding its premium for about the last 3 years. 1 year we have good, then we screw up, and then when things go well. And so if you have history with a company and you're doing something about it, they'll hang with you on the hopes. Now, I know what's going to happen next year. Fireman's Fund's been hanging with Ron's building for many years. Next year, the pipes are all going to be fixed. We're going to go out to bid. They're going to see this horrible loss history for the last 5 years. And that's not just said 5 years worth of loss history. But once I say, oh, and by the way, all the pipes were replaced as of January 2013, every company is going to say, prove to us they've been replaced. And they're going to give great quotes. And Fireman's Fund, who has been paying on this crummy building with bad pipe, not crummy building, building with crummy pipes, is going to say, they're all beating us, but we've paid all these claims. So I'm going to make a plea to his board. Give it won't be a huge difference, but give Fireman's Fund the opportunity to stay on 1 year, at least with no claims, and make some of their money back. It may work, it may not work. It's happened in the past that it's worked. So if you've been with a company for a long term, and you're not one of these that 1 year you're here, when you're there, you go next, or if you stick with an agent for a long term and they can make a plea to the company. We did have a project, and I don't think they're in the room today, that had, in the month of June of 2011, they had 22 claims in 1 month. I was so confused as to what claim, what date. Some days it was 2 claims the same day, different units, different stacks. It was like, what the heck is happening? But the insurance company hung with them. They offered them renewal. They upped their deductible. All the other carriers said, thank you, no, we don't want this building. You know, it's not like they couldn't stay with the current carrier. But if the current carrier had said, no, we're done too, then literally we would go into a secondary market, into a secondary insurance market. And why the reason the secondary insurance market will take a project that has so many claims is they are not required to file their rates. So you may have been paying $100,000, and the next company says, a secondary level, we'll write it, but we want $300,000, and we're slapping a $50,000 deductible on it. That's what happens on the secondary level. They can pick and choose their premium based upon your losses. So you really try not to get out of the standard market. The first insurance is the Fireman's Funds, the Dietrichs. You want to, the State Farms, you want to stay put with them because they have standard rates that are filed. And even no matter how bad your claims are, they can just add an experience mod to it. Or say you've had claims that we're going to change you over to this higher risk, but it's not that they can charge 3 times the price just because you've had claims. That's why they'll say goodbye, adios, we don't want you anymore, because they cannot do what the secondary market does. So I can't give you definitely how long that company is going to hold with you, but if they've been with you for 2 years and you've spent more than your premium, I would hope if they quote, you would give them an opportunity to stay on and have your agent help you folks solve the problems that you're having, the plumbing inspection. Maybe I talked to the people that I was on a conference call today. I said, 11-year-old building. I said, when's the last time you cleaned out the pipes? Because they had a backup with grease, a rag, and a bottle was in the pipe that backed up. I said, when's the last time you cleaned your pipes out? Never. I said, well, maybe. So when I go out to bid next year, you should say that you've put your pipes on an annual contract or whatever the person recommends, because then I can say, yes, we had 2 claims, but the association now has the pipes cleaned out once a year on an annual basis by such and such. It just makes the underwriter feel like, okay, they're trying. Okay, now that doesn't mean the guy who leaves his bathtub water running is not going to cause a claim, but they can forgive those. That's what they can't forgive is when it's poor appliances or poor maintenance of appliances or poor maintenance of the building's pipes. Okay?
You get a bottle into the sewer line.
I know.
When you repipe a building, who pays for the repairs to the unit after installation? What if there are upgrades in that unit?
When you repipe, there is no insurance when you repipe. Okay, the cost of the repipe is on the backs of all the unit owners, hence the need to go out and borrow money, $12 million bucks. I'm sure 1350 didn't have $12 million stashed away for pipe repair. So all the owners have now got a loan that they're all paying back on their monthly fees. The damage to their upgrades, because we have to come in or spalling repair is another one where we have to take off your beautiful tile that you put down on your lanai and fix the spalling. There's no coverage to put back that tile. That's your expense. If your wood floor has to be ripped up, it's your expense as a unit owner. It is not the association as a whole. It is not an insurance company because we don't cover spalling repairs or pipe repairs. Okay? So whether it's the outside lanai, when you put something down on your lanai, you have to ask yourself, well, someday I'm going to have, or when I'm going to have to take this up when they need to repair my lanai. It's the same thing when you put solar on your wood frame townhomes, and you're not doing it as an association as whole, but each owner is allowed to do it. That solar belongs to you. And if the association has to come in and repair their roof, you have to take your solar off. You have to pay to put it back up, not the association. Okay?
We're into this one all the time. The unit above leaks water from washing machine, hose break. The unit below has a tenant. Does the unit above insurance cover the hotel room, per diem expenses, because the tenant cannot live in the unit due to the water loss?
Mark Harris could answer this question. He's had a lovely unit that's had 3 water claims, Mark. His poor tenant, the tenant's hanging in with him, which is amazing. But no, if a landlord has a HO6 policy, then he has loss of rents because the tenant's moved out. And when there's a fire, believe me, the tenant moves out. In a water claim, they may stay. So if Mark lost rents because the tenant moved out for a week, he would have to file a claim subject to his deductible under his policy, okay? The unit owner above, unless she's legally liable, her policy is not picking that up. Remember, she's only responsible for the association's deductible, okay? We're having some arguments going on. And the cost to repair the pipe. Now, we didn't know whose pipe it was, so Mark, being the good landlord that he is, opens up his wall, his ceiling, fixes the pipe, found out it's not his pipe, it's her pipe, okay? And I'm trying to tell her, you must pay the cost of the pipe. No insurance covers pipe repairs. Did she ever pay you? Not yet. Okay, we have to work with her a little better. And then the cost to repair the building is below the association's deductible, I think, on Mark's case. So basically, her policy is saying, well, we're not responsible. And I've talked to her agent, her USA agent. I said, but we have a situation. Oh, Skyliner's not in 514B. That's another problem. If they had opted in, we could charge her the deductible. So Mark is getting kind of stuck with a claim that's really not his responsibility. But the unit owner above does not cover the hotel stay. The association's master policy does not cover the hotel stay. We only cover the building as originally built. We don't have loss of use or loss of rents in our policy. The homeowner's policy does. Now, if the tenant had a policy, it's called an HO4 for a renter, then their policy would take care of them and any damage to their contents. But otherwise, they're out of luck too. Okay?
I think this one is from your friends at 1350. What happened to your voice?
Oh, that's a question. I got a cold. That's it. What can I tell you? That's not a question. Next. What happened? Only you, Rod.
He was terrible.
Go ahead.
Which HO6 carrier is not paying the AOAO's deductible unless their insured is legally liable?
Just put it this way. I don't want to say their name because they'll sue me and they have more than I, but you're just not in the good hands you thought you were. I'm not answering that question. You infer. You're a property manager. I know you know how to infer.
Because I'm in the middle of
are you?
with a company. I just want to know if I'm wasting my time.
If they have Allstate, you're wasting your time for the association's deductible. But it does not mean you can't charge it to the unit owner. She just has no insurance to pay for it. But the unit owner still owes it. In other words, you still should get your $5,000 out of the checkbook of the unit owner. It's just that there's no insurance to back that up. But that's not your fault. They went with a company that doesn't cover the deductible. So continue to write that unit owner and say, regardless of whether your insurance company pays or not, we are in 514B, your unit caused the claim, you owe us $5,000, or whatever the deductible is. Okay? Any other questions? Oh, that was Mark scratching his nose. Any other questions?
Got one.
Oh.
Must an AOAO informally adopt 514? Formally, sorry. Adopt 514B to be subject to its provisions. Is there a timeline when 514B will automatically supersede 514A?
Okay. There is no timeline at this point, and yes, you need to formally adopt or opt into 514B. And just opting into 514B does not mean you're automatically in the insurance section. That is another opt-in. So you can either, some boards have opted into the insurance section, but not 514B. A lot of boards have opted into 514B and opted into the insurance section, and some have just opted into 514B. But it is a formal vote, just a common, common percentage, 50%, 50.1%. Is all you need. And most people do it at an annual meeting if the board has proxies to vote, because you can do it then, though you have to send it out ahead of time that we're going to vote on this and this is why. So there are still a lot of you who are not in 514B. But 514B came out in 2006, so it's time to be moving your way into 514B. And will admit that our board that I'm on, we just did it this last time at our annual meeting. But it needs something to be done. It's easiest at the annual meeting. And the property managers can work with your resident managers if you want to do that to get them moving on it. And if your boards don't understand it, you know, I'm more than willing to come and explain it to them and why it is the easier way to go in many areas. Because right now, if you're not in it, you're under 514A for some things, 514B for other things, and you have no insurance opt-in, so you can't really force people to buy insurance. You can't force the deductible back on them. And you have a lot of unhappy owners like Mark. Okay. Next question. No other questions?
No.
What shall we talk about? We got more time?
Yeah, we got a little time.
We got a little time. Come on, guys. This is your seminar.
Any other questions on the top of your head? Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Sorry.
We got questions. Yes? Okay, if you opt into 514B, how do you mandate or regulate that everybody have a homeowner's policy? Normally what you do is you send out a letter, you know, the board opted into 514B, we are checking on your homeowner's policy, please send us a copy of your front page of your policy. Our agency does it as a service for our clients, and then we monitor it for you. But what you do then is you're going to get a piece of paper or a certificate of insurance showing the coverage they have. In your letter out to your owners, you can state your minimum limits, and most boards are stating their minimum limits enough to cover the association's deductible and liability of $300,000 in the loss assessment. So you can state your limits. The letter goes out to the owners, maybe gives them 30 days, 60 days, whatever. They start to send in your certificates. We actually record them, put them into our program. And then at the end of 30 days, we would then send a PDF to the board that says, out of your 100 units, 56 have coverage, 32 didn't respond, and you know, the others all have expired policies or something. And then you might tell us, we'll send another letter, or what some boards have done is, in our first letter, we said if you don't show proof, the board is going to buy you a policy and actually charge it to you on your maintenance fees. And many boards have done that. And then when they get the charge for this $200 for insurance, you'd be surprised how many people all of a sudden say, well, here's my policy, you know, and turn it in, and then we can delete them off of this master HO6 policy. But the first condo that did that was, in 2006, was Honolulu Tower. They sent out to 356 people, we want you to proof of insurance. And I would say all but 150 showed proof. So we wrote one policy with 150 unit numbers, not names, unit numbers that we covered under a master HO6. And we had a claim the following year where a leak into one of the units, and it damaged her wood floor. And the adjuster for the company, which was Farmers, and it's still Farmers on that one, went in and called me and said, Sue, you have a problem here. She's got a $20,000 wood floor, and the association only carried $10,000 of dwelling to take care of her wood floor. So I said, put her on. And so I talked to her, and I said, you know, the adjuster tells me you have beautiful furniture, beautiful wood floor, and you're running around with this minimum limit policy that the association bought for you. You should have bought your own policy. You need to have, according to the adjuster, $40,000 in dwelling, maybe $75,000 in contents. I said, you got $10,000 with me and $35,000 in contents. If you had a fire, lady, you'd have been on a lot of money. She says, well, I didn't, you know, I talked to her for a long time, explained how it worked. And at the end of the conversation, she says, well, I'm thankful that I at least have $10,000. I understand it's my fault. I'll go out and buy my policy. I said, please do. And I said, don't wait for the 2 more months on the master policy. Buy it now, because tomorrow something else could go wrong. Okay? So it's better than nothing when you buy just the minimum limits, and when somebody has a claim, and that was the only claim we've had on the master policy. And of course, next year, more and more people bought. And so it's probably down to 45 or 50 units today, because more and more people are starting to understand. And of course, they're having more and more water leaks, so they're understanding. But that's how you do it. And you literally charge it to them. The minute it's charged on their account and they see their maintenance fees have gone up $200 that month, they're on the phone to the property manager. What the heck's going on? They're on the phone to me. And they're a little upset at first until we say, this is, you know, you voted for this. You voted to opt into 542B. You told the board to make sure everybody had insurance. I always throw it back on them.
Okay, we have a question referring to something you said earlier about what is good maintenance considered?
Good maintenance because you should never have a leak. Impossible. But good maintenance is you have to show to the insurance company that you're doing something about it. Your pipes, your water heaters are 7 years old. We've sent out notices to all of our owners. It's been 7 years since we last warned you about the need to get new water heaters. Water heaters are good for 7 to 10 years, I've been told. So a lot of boards will send out the notice at the beginning of the 7 years. It's time to replace your water heater. Now, believe me, there is the guy that says, I've had my, and he did. I had this water heater for 20 years. I didn't replace it last time, and I'm not replacing it this time. And guess who had to call me a month later to tell me his water heater broke? Okay? So, I mean, there are those kinds of people that are in every project. And their appliances are better than anybody else's, and they're not going to have to change them. But that's what good maintenance is. It's following up with your owners to remind them. It's having your pipes. Like some of you have a roofing contract. The roofer comes out every time and checks your roofs once a year. Well, who checks your pipes? Nobody, most of you. You know, like this condo I said today in the conference call, it's been 11 years, Sue. Nobody's ever looked at them. Okay? Run a camera down. I said they ran a camera down one of this condo's pipes. All they saw were light, all these holes in their pipes. Well, you know, those holes are going to cause breaks, and then we're going to have a water leak. Maybe it's time to replace some pipes. That's what good maintenance is. It's trying to get ahead of the claims so they don't happen. But you'll always have a few claims, but it's trying to get ahead of it. Yes?
Hi, how often should washer hoses be replaced, and how often should units owners snake their pipes?
Well, you don't want owners snaking their pipes because...
No, I mean...
first of all, we always have licensed plumbers.
We always have licensed plumbers, but the suggestion is what, every 2 years as preventative maintenance?
You know, there's no hard and fast rule. I would say if you've used a plumber in your building, you know, there's several plumbers that know your building real well, and I would go with what their recommendations are. There are some people who have their stuff on an annual clean out, others who do it every 2 years. I mean, if you can live with 2 years and you're not having claims in between, then obviously you're okay with 2 years, but there's no hard and fast rule.
Our main pipes every year, but we're talking like I said, suggestion for preventative maintenance for the unit owners, because 9 times out of 10, the water damage, you know, doesn't come from the main pipe, it comes from unit owners.
That's
How
right.
often should they change the washer hose?
Okay, well, on a washer hose, that's why you would want to have a plumbing inspection done, because the plumber will go in. It depends upon the type of hose they have, too. You know, is it the rubber one that's been there now for 20 years? Obviously, that's got to be replaced. It's hard. It doesn't work. That's why a plumbing inspection will go in, and if you do a plumbing inspection every 7 to 10 years, or if the plumber says, no, this building's near this seawater, we need to do it every 5 years, that's what you're looking for. Every condo is some different. But a plumbing inspection will tell you what needs to be replaced instantly, and he'll give you an indication of when you should be doing these things on a 3-year basis, 5-year basis, 10, whatever. I'm not a plumber, but they know their business.
What happens when the affected unit has no insurance? What course of action do they take to claim for damages?
The affected unit that has no insurance is going to go hopefully rely upon the master policy. And if they've made no improvements, they'll be okay, because we cover the building as originally built. Now, if they have damage to their contents, POHO, they're out of it. There's nothing there for them. They can try and take the unit above to court. They'll probably lose, because small claims court has never charged an owner who caused a claim when they didn't know what was going to happen, okay? So the affected unit is probably going to learn the hard lesson that they should have spent $200 instead of having a $7,000 claim covered by the master policy and get a check for $2 because we subtracted out the $5,000 deductible. That's the only recourse they have. So they can try and sue the unit owner above, or like what Ron's person did, is sue the rental agent and try to go that route. Okay? Yes?
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
First question is it common for condominium documents to have waiver of subrogation?
The old condominium documents for the condos built in the 70s and 80s, yes, it is fairly common to have waiver of subrogation in their bylaws.
And then the second question, just for the education of our parents, can you explain high-risk resolutions and how that's how buildings implement upgrades of their appliances?
Can you, I'm not sure I heard the question right.
Can you explain high-risk?
Oh, explain. Yes, I can explain a high-risk resolution. Basically, 514B, if you're in it, allows the board to implement a high-risk component for the board to say, we consider your washing machine, your toilet, your water heater, maybe your ice maker as high-risk components. And as a high-risk component, we have the right to go in and make sure, or make you go in and make sure, or hire a plumber, that they're in good working order. Now, this all has to be done through legal things, and you have to have the attorney drop the documents just like when you opt into 514B. So most condos make their high-risk components anything with water, because that is where the claims are coming from. So if you have washing machines, ice makers, Those are the high-risk components. They pass a resolution that allows the board to go ahead and hire a plumber, or for this board to demand that the unit owner hire a plumber and get in and take care of these high-risk components. When you go in, there is a condo in town, when they start to bring in a new washing machine and they see Sears is coming in with that nice rubber hose, they stop them. And they say, we want that hose, here's the hose you're going to put on it. And they give them a brand new, steel-bladed, wired, whatever. I don't know anything about machines except how to run them. And that's what they put on. But they actually stop the guys right there and say, we want that rubber hose, you ain't putting that one in our unit. They've never had a washing machine leak. Amazing. So it does work. Now that's because it's a high-rise and they can monitor who's coming in. For you townhouse styles that are all over, you don't know sometimes what a unit owner is moving in or moving out. But that's one way to sort of monitor it. But yes, it has to all be done legally. You can't just decide to do this and force it on your owners. You have to go through a board meeting, do it all. Have the attorney file the document.
Thank you, Steve.